Well, former President Donald Trump's sentencing in the criminal hush money trial in which he was convicted has now been delayed until September. This comes after the former president asked the judge who was overseeing that trial to toss out his conviction after the Supreme Court's big ruling on presidential immunity yesterday. Trump's lawyers say prosecutors relied on evidence and testimony that should now be inadmissible under that Supreme Court ruling. ABC's senior investigative correspondent Aaron Katersky, along with ABC's senior reporter Catherine Falders and legal contributor Asha Rangappa, join us now for more. So, Aaron, what's the latest here?
The judge overseeing former President Trump's criminal hush money case, Judge Juan Merchan, has just signaled to the parties, we're told, that he is going to delay the former president's sentencing until September 18th. That will give him time to consider a forthcoming motion from the former president to throw out his conviction of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records because he says the Supreme Court ruling should now render some evidence inadmissible. That includes testimony from Hope Hicks. It also includes a series of the former president's tweets about Michael Cohen, a government ethics report that Trump filled out, and things that should now be off limits, his attorneys are going to argue. Terry, the jury took less than 10 hours, you'll remember, to convict Trump as charged, find him guilty as charged. So prosecutors are expected to argue that these little bits of evidence wouldn't have made much difference.
All right. Well, Asha, let me ask you. So, what do you make of this? The Supreme Court's decision yesterday really erecting very significant barriers in the name of protecting the independence of the president, barriers to holding any president or former president accountable for crimes. How do you read that opinion in light of the facts of the Trump case?
Yes, well, there's two very sweeping parts of the Supreme Court's decision, which I think it's not surprising that Trump's lawyers have raised this appeal. So the first is that they said that non-official acts and official acts don't only extend to the distinction between what's explicitly mentioned in Article 2 of the Constitution, that official immunity can extend to the outer perimeter of a president's official duties. So things that can sort of almost be very tenuously connected to what the president does. The second very important thing is that if something is qualified as an official act, you can't use it as evidence of intent and motive. And so all of those things that Aaron mentioned have been raised on appeal are things that Trump will argue are in the outer perimeter of his official duties, filling out ethics forms, talking to his White House communications directors, and that they were introduced for the purpose of indicating his state of mind or intent. I think, as Aaron mentioned, it's a high bar to overturn a jury's verdict. They'd have to show that but for this evidence, they wouldn't have convicted. But I think that it will cause a significant delay in this case.
Deal with some. All right. Thank you for that, Asha. And Catherine, also today's Trump's former trusted ally and lawyer Rudy Giuliani was disbarred in New York. Tell us about that.
Yeah, according to this new ruling in New York, he's disbarred in New York. This ruling says, Terry, and I'm going to quote from it, that this is a consequence of his demonstrably false and misleading statements to courts, lawmakers, and the public at large in his capacity as a lawyer for former President Donald Trump. Of course, these were comments that he was making in the wake of the 2020 election, where he was pushing false and misleading statements that Trump won the election through various different means, as the statement writes, through the courts and publicly. Of course, Giuliani says that at the time he was saying these statements and making these statements, he believed what he was saying. That's at least his defense of this. Of course, we've heard from a spokesperson for Giuliani, Terry, who says he plans to appeal this ruling. So we'll see how that plays out.
All right, Catherine Falders, Aaron Katersky, Asha Rangappa, thanks very much.